So we're on part 6 of the report on the tour to Israel. I was thinking this might be the last report, but it might not be. We'll see. Because this is all about the Temple Mount dig. I found some great videos and everything. It came together really nicely. So I was planning on doing some more on Lachish and some of the other places that we went to. But this just came together so nicely, I wanted to do this. So, you might remember I showed a short clip of Moishi on one of these reports. And I showed a clip of him early on in this series. He's a conservative Jew, and he was our host at the Temple Mount dig. In this clip, I couldn't find anything wrong with what he said. I didn't have to do any editing or anything. He had some very well-based facts, and it was very interesting. So when we started, he gave us a briefing on the area, a little bit more on about the dirt that was from the Temple Mount, and now he's going to talk to you about some of the finds that they found there. So it's very interesting. I hope you enjoy this short clip.
Here in the boxes, we have reproductions of some of our more famous pieces, some of our more impressive pieces of the collection. These 5 on top are various projectiles that we found. The first one that you see is actually from the time period of the life of King David and Solomon. Wow. It's an arrowhead from that time period. The second example we have there, which is referred to on the wall there, is an Indo-Scythian type of arrowhead. This was the type of arrowhead commonly used in the armies of the Babylonians and other regions, other countries in this region of the world. And it dates to the time of the Babylonian conquest of Jerusalem. So this very well might be an arrowhead left behind from the destruction of the first temple. Wow. Now there's no way I can give you that answer in certainty. I wasn't there to watch this arrow pierce a poor guy's chest or something. But we know the dating of this, and we know the style of this, and it's from this general time period. Here on the bottom we have reproductions of our famous half shekel and quarter shekel coins, which are from the time period of the Great Revolt against the Romans. So this was So this was a time where minting a coin was not just an economic statement, it was a national statement. If today I decide to turn my apartment in Jerusalem into a country, and I start printing shekels that have my face on them, as terrifying as that would be, it's a national declaration. It's me stating, well, I'm a country now free from the reigns of the state of Israel. This is exactly what was happening here. That the Jewish rebels refused to be attached to Rome and adhere to the Roman economic system. So they minted new coins. They minted new coins in the time period of 67, 68 CE, just about. So,
English on there too.
Yeah, awesome. And on this side, we've got some architectural fragments from the late Second Temple and early Roman period. These 2 on the bottom. They're more Romanesque in design because when Herod redesigned and beautified the Second Temple, he took a lot of creative energy and inspiration from Greco-Roman styles. Herod himself is a complicated and interesting character. A grandson of converts converted to Judaism through military conquest, who then proceeded to go and make serious headway and become a member of the aristocratic Judean class. This was a man deeply rooted in Greco-Roman philosophy and culture, but also a man who has a mikveh, a ritual bath, in every single one of his private villas. This is a complicated man. And the man that the Talmud refers to as an evil man and calls him terrible things. But then it also turns around and says, he who hasn't seen the building,
has not seen a beautiful building.
We've got other fragments here, reproductions of fragments. The first one is among the most interesting. It's from the 14th or 13th century BCE. This was a pendant which bears the name and symbol of the pharaoh Thutmose III.
Wow.
So it's a Canaanite object, or at least brought here in that time period. This tradition of Egyptian pendants actually carries through for a few centuries after that. Scarab-style pendants. There is one or two that have a representation of the god Sekhmet in our collection. It's a fascinating side note, because I don't want to debate or get into the sources to describe the historicity of the Exodus or the scale of the Exodus. We'll just accept that it's an event that occurs in the Bible, and we're looking at this through the biblical lens. But the relationship between Israel and the Egyptians was much more complicated than just slavery, freedom, and that's it, the line is cut. This was the primary colonial and imperial power. All kind of pottery styles was made from them. All sorts of economic systems and banking systems, treasury is directly loaned from the Egyptian system in this early time period. For example, the famous bulla of the Temple Mount Sifting project, the seal of Hitzilyahu, the son of Imer, and it has the line of Pashhur, son of Imer, in the Tanakh. Pashhur was not a Hebrew name, it's an Egyptian name. And working in the treasury, required him to be a Kohen, and secondarily, it was a family business. So Pashhur and his father and his brothers and his cousins who were born to males of the same family were all part of the same banking class that took care of the treasury. And as you can imagine, bankers and treasurers are never popular in a generation. So, and here, just in time for Hanukkah, actually, we have this pot shard here. A kind of ancient pottery shard with an image of the temple menorah. I don't have the dating on this, it's one of our mysterious objects, but it's got an etched representation of the menorah from inside the temple here, this one in number 4.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Menorah.
So,
Oh, wow. Amazing.
yeah. So, we got any questions, or can we go to the film section?
We
What do you
can go.
think, friends?
Yeah, we're doing great.
Yeah.
Amazing.
You'll see more of that in a moment. In fact, that's the next clip. This is Dr. Gabi Barkai. You know, I've referenced him many, many times before. We've watched videos of him. He was one of my dad's professors. He was one of my professors. Now these, what you just saw, are all replicas that they have in there, because the rest of them are in the museums. But this one, but in this clip, Gabi Barkai's got the original piece with the menorah on it, and he's going to talk to you about that.
I'm holding a tiny piece of pottery with an incision upon it. The incision was made by a sharp instrument after firing. The piece of pottery is of small size, approximately 2 centimeters by 1. The incision is made on a body sherd, which is originating in a jug or juglet. It had to be a closed vessel. Now, on the back side, there are horizontal potter's wheel marks, while on the facade, on the front, we have vertical lines of burnishing. The incision is of a 7-branched candelabrum, a menorah. The arms of the menorah are straight rather than curved, and each of them ends with a deeply incised point which marks the flame. The menorah had most probably a tripod leg. That is to say, we see one of the legs probably out of 3 curved legs which supported the central arm around which the branches were branching off. The menorah seems earlier than the early Christian or Byzantine period to me. It seems from the sherd and from the depiction of the menorah that it could come from somewhere in the Roman period, either early Roman or late Roman. This is very surprising because we do not have too many descriptions of the seven-branched candelabrum, the menorah, from that period of time. It is beyond any doubt a menorah, a seven-branched candelabrum. After I had it in my hands for quite a long period of time, I can say that any other suggestion is refutable. It does not convince one to have any other interpretation of this design. As for the purpose of this incision, I have no idea. It could have been part of a more large scene which was incised upon a complete vessel, but unfortunately only a small portion was preserved. One thing I can say for sure, from the Roman period and on, the menorah, or the seven-branched candelabrum, developed to be a Jewish national and religious symbol. And it had to be done by a Jew, had to be used by a Jew, and this is no doubt a product of a Jewish hand.
So that just makes my mind go crazy. I'm thinking about, well, okay, so this was found on the Temple Mount. Mm-hmm. So it makes me wonder if maybe it was a piece of a jar that maybe held the oil for the menorah. I mean, there's just all kinds of possibilities for this piece. And like you said, it's very, very unique. We don't have a lot of pieces like that that date to that time. That's a very special piece there. So, okay, what's the next one? So after Moishi showed us those replicas of some of the artifacts that have been found at the Temple Mount dig, he then took us to a theater that was on site there, and he showed us this short clip.
The Temple Mount in Jerusalem, the place where heaven and earth meet, where Solomon's temple stood, and where Herod built his magnificent edifice. It is sacred to more than half of the world's population.
Allahu Akbar, Allah.
However, some of its past has remained enigmatic. It is the most politically contested site on the planet, and so no archaeological excavation has ever taken place here. Now, for the first time in the history of Jerusalem, we have the opportunity to reveal the hidden treasures that are buried in its soil.
In 1999, while I was a student of archaeology, I heard about an illegal excavation that took place in the Temple Mount. A huge pit had been illegally bulldozed deep into the Temple Mount. About 400 truckloads of soil saturated with archaeological artifacts were dumped right down there in the Kidron Valley. Together with other intrigued students, we examined the dumps and realized that they could be a treasure trove of information about the Temple Mount.
First of all, welcome to the sifting project of soil from the Temple Mount.
Dr. Gabriel Bakaim, a professor, enthusiastically helped us identify and date the finds. As a result, we were invited to present the finds of the survey in an important archaeological conference. The significance of the finds led us to establish a project for systematically sifting the soil from the Temple Mount.
The Temple Mount is inaccessible to archaeologists. The finds unearthed in the sifting project cast a new light on the history and archaeology of Jerusalem and the Temple Mount. This is a very rare and once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to discover original finds originating from the Temple Mount. In this process of work, we locate analyze, process, study, categorize, as well as prepare for publication many tens of thousands of artifacts which otherwise would have been thrown away.
These are the coins. Now, these are clean coins. They came back from a laboratory cleaning. You'll find a coin, it will look like a green chunk of mud. Spread the material on the tray, that way, and then we'll wash the mud off of it. And that's it. So good luck to everyone.
What is special about this project is that volunteers from all over the world come here and can experience a tangible connection with the history of Jerusalem. They can touch shards, pots, soil, special architecture elements. And in this way, they can connect to the bigger picture of Jerusalem as a whole. We have been blessed with a constant stream of people from all over the world, totaling more than 150,000 who responded spontaneously to this research and to this opportunity and came to work with us.
Yeah, Dina, can you look at something? Is
What
that
you got?
possibly coin?
Yes it is.
Very lucky group.
Well done, guys, we have another coin.
One of our challenges was how do we deal with so many artifacts that were wrenched from their original context. To overcome this problem, we developed new archaeological methodologies and we are using advanced statistical tools such as data mining software. These new techniques have the potential to produce unprecedented insights into the Temple Mount's history.
Our finds tell the story of the many generations of the Temple Mount. They include fragments of magnificent public buildings, jewelry, beads, thousands of ancient coins, figurines, arrowheads, fragments of inscriptions on stone and pottery, dice and game pieces, and much more.
We've recovered numerous geometric, multicolor floor tiles from the Second Temple period that have enabled us to begin to reconstruct what Herod's Temple Mount courts may have looked like.
The entire open-air courts were laid with stones of all colors and all sorts. Sometimes small finds can be of great significance.
This is the first ever ancient Hebrew inscription that was found in the Temple Mount. This seal impression was attached to a fabric, to a sack of money, of gold, silver, but it also has a name on it. And the name of the family of priests is Immer, which is mentioned in the book of Jeremiah, and we know about Pashhur, the son of Immer, which was the general manager of the temple.
And Pashhur, son of Immer the priest, he was the chief officer in the house of the Lord. These finds, if left unpublished, will have no effect on the archaeological research regarding the Temple Mount and will be as though never found.
Our main target now is to come up with a proper scientific report, publication that will encourage an educated debate and educated discussion of the entire history of the Temple Mount.
One of our most exciting finds is a half-shekel silver coin, dated to the time of the Second Temple period. During Temple time, each one contributed a half-shekel towards the upkeep of the temple. This coin symbolizes public responsibility towards the most spiritual center. This half-shekel has inspired us to launch our own half-shekel campaign. This coin represents a collective effort by concerned people from all over the world to bring to light the true story of the Temple Mount.
Each one who is numbered in the census shall give this, half a shekel, according to the holy shekel, half a shekel as an offering to the Lord. The future of the Temple Mount is in your hands. Your half shekel will help tell the story of the Temple Mount. Now the project has reached a tipping point. Donate today so that we can take it to the next level.
So Mark, after this, if it's okay, maybe you can tell us a little bit about what you're pioneering at Beit Avenu concerning the half shekel. Remember we talked about maybe you could tell them at the end of this a little bit about that. Is that okay?
Oh yeah, I kind of forgot. I had some things, but I mean,
You can
it's
give us
probably
a
something
brief.
I'm gonna write on, but
Right.
okay.
That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. Very good. So after he showed us that, we at the little theater they had there. Then we went to where we were going to do the sifting, and this is what he explained to us there. He told us about some other things that we might find.
Tile. These are from walkways. They're Roman and Second Temple, Byzantine. They're common. Not common meaning you'll find hundreds of them, but common meaning that there is usually one in each bucket. As time
is mosaic.
Mosaic, yeah.
Mosaic.
Yeah. And as time moves forward, you get these beautiful glass and ceramic mosaic pieces that start to show up in the Byzantine and early Muslim time periods here, in red and dark blue and green as the dark green, the traditional Muslim color of the early Muslim period, and they're lined with gold. Some of them they have a gold film on them.
Wow.
Second is glass. We have the ancient Herodian
There you go.
Pepsi.
Pepsi.
Very ancient.
Really?
Didn't Pepsi ban Israel at one time?
So that's why this is an interesting artifact.
There
because
you
in
go.
the time period that this was happening, there wasn't Pepsi in Israel. There was
I
only
remember.
Pepsi in the Palestinian territories.
Yeah.
So this is evidence of their tampering with the site. Whoever it was, Walid was eating away his lunch and he tossed his bottle of Pepsi and he gave me an artifact. Now, ancient glass is usually green in color.
Roman glass.
Yeah. A lot of it is very delicate. They were personal items, small personal items. As you can see, we didn't have industrial glass making techniques then, so the glass has streaks and bubbles inside of it. That's how you know you're dealing with ancient glass instead of modern glass. This was the handle of some kind of a small vessel. This would have been the base of a little chalice that would have fit into a slot. The rim of a dish.
I got a piece like that.
Folded.
So, when I was digging with them at the Gate of the Essenes, I found a big piece of slag of Roman glass, and Gabi let me keep it. When I was a little kid, and I kept it. And then when we got married, I had it cut into a pendant and earrings, matching earrings.
That's a really nice gift, actually.
Yeah, that's great.
It's
That was
special.
fun.
So,
yeah.
and here's a Roman window, actually, or Byzantine, probably. Sorry, Byzantine window. Most people don't know they had glass windows in antiquity. It's like we think they lived in stone huts and roasted hogs out on a pit or whatever. But
that's great.
Our next category is pottery. Pottery is going to be the thing you find the most in your buckets. It's abundant in dig sites throughout the Mediterranean and Middle East, the world really. It's one of the first, if not the first, man-made produced object. And here is the nozzle and handle of a menorah, an oil lamp. 6th or 7th century, probably, maybe a little bit later. This is the handle. They're usually crudely kind of designed by hand, and this you can actually tell was used. Here it's got the marks of the ash, the burnt ash and oil.
Amazing.
In addition to that, you've got things like handles of massive vessels. Most of them that you'll find look like this. There'll be body shards from various time periods. And you've got early Muslim kind of ceramics that start to become glazed and have an incredible green and different coloration to them, and it develops from that point forward. At the end of the day, I'll show you some of our good finds of this day. We have a beautiful piece of glazed Ottoman tile that we found today, like this big, a big chunk. Yeah. So, next category is bones. Who knows what this is?
A tooth.
That's a tooth. Yeah, that's the tooth of like a big animal, like a camel.
Camel
Or something
camel
like a
tooth.
camel, yeah. So don't know who was eating roasted camel up there, but it wasn't me. So most of what we've got are shards like this. They're more caramel in color, and usually you can tell there's some perforations where the marrow would have touched the bone. So this was maybe a priestly chicken dinner, maybe a crusader barbecue, I don't know. But we also have spines of fish. Now you tell me why I would keep a spine of a fish and a seashell here.
Spine of a fish and a seashell.
Why do you think this is important?
Before the flood, after the flood?
No, not that, not going that far back. Yeah, sorry.
Why that's important in our life? This is for our history.
It's because if any of you have been swimming in Jerusalem recently in the ocean, I'll advise a good psychologist for you.
It's imported.
Because there's no oceans in
Right,
Jerusalem.
I was about to say there's no. It's inland.
Right.
There's no
No
bodies
such
of
thing.
water nearby.
So they were definitely for food.
Yeah. The shells
Well, the
they
shell
work for
won't
design
be, but
purposes.
yeah.
And the spine of the fish, obviously it was an import.
Right.
It shows there is a channel of trade with coastline cities. It shows that there was a fishing culture in that time period. It shows that there was a design culture using seashells, and that someone was rich enough to pay someone to go and get seashells and bring them back.
Wow.
We've also got what goes in the bone category, mother of pearl.
Oh, beautiful.
Actually, the oldest recorded instances of humans collecting mother of pearl for design purposes is from India, 5,000 years ago.
Wow.
In India, people were collecting this out of streams and etching them with symbols. It's a fantastic.
Your relatives.
Yeah, your ancestors long ago. So and lastly, we've got fossils.
Wow.
So this guy here is older than the Romans and the Jews and the Byzantines and Crusaders and everybody combined.
Not Peggy.
Wow. Yeah. Well,
Oh, sorry, Peggy.
He'll go. These are a little bit more rare, but they go in our bone category as well. And also you find other joints and astrologus bones that were shaven and used as game pieces, things like this.
Oh, wow.
Our fifth category is special stones. You have volcanic stones, and as grateful as I am that there is no ocean here, me and the humidity are not so good for each other. I'm doubly grateful that there's no volcanoes in Jerusalem.
Oh, yeah.
Because these are volcanic stones from the north. They're brought here for construction purposes. In addition, we have marble, a chunk of ancient marble.
Wow.
So that's a basalt then?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's what this is,
okay,
basalt,
okay.
yeah. And this is a chunk of ancient marble. The reason why this is important is at first it's because it's what Herod used to design the outer courts, the tiles of the outer courts, which have very specific Roman measurements, the opus sectile tiles.
Right.
It's a precise science. And the second reason is because this is an import. There is no marble in the land of Israel. There's no such thing. Marble was imported from Egypt. It was imported from Italy. From Anatolia in Turkey, where my ancestors.
And it was on the facade of the temple, yes, right
Yeah.
on the facade.
Yeah, and the floors of the outer patio.
Right, right. He was going to cover it up with gold. Herod was,
Yeah.
and they said the priest said no. It makes it look like the waves of the ocean.
Right,
Yeah.
right, exactly. And then you've got, for example, chalk. That it's clear that it's been carved with human hands. There's obviously it's been worked. So that will also go in our special stones category, as well as other things like ancient plaster with a flat side. You will see if it's painted. Sometimes we keep that if it's a large or significant piece, or bitumen, which is a black stone, also that was used in the construction of the tiles of the outer patio. And our last category is metal.
Metal.
The last guy who looked like me and dealt with nails like this didn't end up so good for him. So we've got a lot of Roman nails that we
That was
see.
one of Noah's throwaways.
Yeah. yeah, when he was drinking, he chucked it over the end. But we've also got horseshoe nails, for example. These are Crusader, a lot of them, or Roman, but mostly Crusader. Bottom of horses' shoes.
Wow.
You find flakes of bronze. like this. It's difficult to know what the object was because it's just a flake.
It's green. It'll have that green
yeah,
color.
Yeah, Statue of Liberty style.
Right, right.
And a lot of the chunks of iron you'll find are like this. They're objects outside of a context. They've degraded, but we collect them because it's a sign of a clear human interaction with this site. And to end this on a hopeful note that you'll find a coin too today. This is a modern Israeli 10 agurot coin.
10 agurot.
That's the size of a lot of the ancient coins we're looking at.
Button.
Wow.
They're called minima. A lot of the small coins like this are called minima. There are some coins that are larger. I can show you an example when we're finished today of the half of the coin that was found today. But that's just so you can look out for something small and green or iron. You should attentively look. So which one of you feels lucky? Tell me. Okay, so go and pick a bucket for me and I'll get us started.
Okay.
Every one of us had one of those little boxes. And we put it next to when we're going through the sifting. Those are the categories we put that stuff in. We had a category for each. I really liked those green. We found a lot of those green pieces from the early Muslim period. I hadn't seen a lot of that before, so that was very interesting to me on this dig. So then we went to the sifting area. Then we did all the sifting, and then afterwards we took a picture of me out front. And it says Mitzvah Hamasuot. It was established by the American Friends of the Everest Foundation. We had a great time. We found some great stuff. We'll see you soon. Shalom, shalom. Say goodbye, and we did so in the video, the previous one, where you saw where the guy was talking about the site and everything, there were two sites. This one that we were in is the second one. There was an earlier site just down below from this, and that's where you saw all that video taken. But then they left that site and took this site up above it. So this is the second site, and that was me digging through the stuff, and I hope you enjoyed the report.